Shall we begin, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. A very good evening to one and all present in the Gibbs Talks Season 1 on the theme Roadmap to Higher Education Post COVID 19. Once again, I, Kavya Buddhiraja, on behalf of Geeta Ratan International Business School, Rohini, extend a warm welcome to you all in this third episode of Gibbs Talks Season 1. वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा, which means, O Lord Ganesha, my humble prostrations to you, who is an embodiment of all wishes. Remembering you, I begin my studies, so that your grace and blessings shall bring success always. It is always auspicious to begin every event by glorifying Lord Ganesha. So let us all invoke Lord Ganesha by singing his Vandana together. All India Council for Technical Education, also known as AICTE was established under the Ministry of HRD by the Union Government of India to fulfill the objective of promotion of quality in technical education, planning and coordinated development of technical education system and regulations and maintenance of norms and standards. Geeta Ratan International Business School started its journey in the year 2004 with the approval of All India Council for Technical Education with its flagship program of MBA. During its 16 years journey, GIBS gradually started various programs, and all these programs are affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Delhi. The institute is accredited as Category A by NAC in its second cycle and has been assessed as Category A+ by State Fee Regulatory Committee. Also, it has been rated the highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Delhi. The institute has been rated grade A by Academic Audit Cell of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University consecutively from last 7 years. GIBS has also been rated number 2 twice by the Times B School Survey. Now, let me take you down to the topic of today's evening. In the last 2 episodes, we have unfurled many unknown facts before the attendees by the academic stalwarts of the country. Yet, many are there still unknown. And so, to exhume those questions wandering around in the minds of the stakeholders, this talk show has brought another academic think tank of the country on today's evening. He is none other than the chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, Professor Dr. Anil Dattatray Sahasrabudhe. Sir will deliver his speech today on the sub-theme Reshaping Higher Education, the AICTE Guide. The All India Council for Technical Education declared a series of revolutionary measures at the beginning of the year 2020. All these steps were directed towards achieving technical education as per the global education system. However, all of a sudden, this lockdown posed as a huge road breaker before the journey of development. Our education system has come to a standstill condition from the last 3 months. So what is the way out? And now, let me take this wonderful opportunity to welcome and introduce you all to our today's legend, Professor Dr. Anil Dattatray Sahasrabudhe, Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi. He will elaborate us on the topic Reshaping Higher Education, the AICTE Guide. Professor Sahasrabudhe's academic credentials have always kept him on the top. He obtained his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering with a gold medal from Karnataka University, securing first rank in all semesters. He obtained his master's and PhD degrees from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and received distinction as well. He has been an institution builder with a strong commitment to teaching and nation building. He was associated with 2 new institutes in the remotest region of the country, which are Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology in Arunachal Pradesh and the 6th IIT, which is Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Professor Dr. D. Sahasrabudhe is an eminent academician, an astute leader, a far-sighted visionary, and a renowned luminary of great eminence. He is an entrepreneur and a great humanitarian who instituted changes to make the education sector more accessible by continued support and training. Professor Sahasrabudhe, in his career, has held important academic, research, and administrative positions and can be rightly considered to be the change catalyst, who not only has the knowledge and engaging enthusiasm, but also has distinguished himself in multiple areas of academia, including teaching, research, and service. He is also an innovator for multiple methods of classroom teaching and molding teaching strategies to fit the needs. This excellence comes not only from his powerful ethic of care and responsibility to society, but also his innovative creation of learning environments. For his zeal and unwavering commitment, he has been bestowed with the Praj Entrepreneur Award and the Jeevan Puraskar Award of MIT World Peace University, and is the chairman of the Basic Scientific Research Committee of UGC. During his tenure at AICTE so far, he has already introduced several reforms to make AICTE a vibrant organization. The world's largest hackathon, the Adjunct Faculty Scheme, Mentorship Scheme for Helping Technical Institutes, National Doctoral Fellowship Scheme, and other few initiatives have attracted the attention of the Honorable President of India. MHRD had given the responsibility of developing India's indigenous MOOCs platform, which is Swayam, to AICTE, which was successfully handled under Professor Sahasrabudhe's leadership. He is an approachable academic entrepreneur who relates well to the stakeholders with compassion and inclusiveness, helping them to engage fully in their learning. Sir, it is indeed our privilege to have you here with us on the third episode of Gibbs Talks season 1. We warmly welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for graciously accepting our invitation. Sir, may you please now enlighten all of us with your words of wisdom. You may kindly carry the session forth. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Kavya. And I have been interacting with Anirudh. Great work being done by Gibbs. Gita Ratan. नाम में ही गीता यानी भगवत गीता है और रतन यानी डायमंड ज्वेल, तो दोनों का सम्मिलन जिसमें होता है, ऐसे गीता रतन इंस्टीट्यूट विच इज इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस स्कूल is certainly doing a wonderful job in the 16 years. And therefore, it is my pleasure to interact with not only your students and faculty, but all those who are attending this particular webinar. आपने जो हमको सब्जेक्ट दिया गया है, reshaping the higher education. मेरे ख्याल से from about last 3 years, you said that in 2020 we started doing something, but it has a historical beginning. For about 5 years, we have been working on some of the reforms agenda, and the focus was because of what is known as Cow Committee report. I don't know how many of you are aware. The MHRD had instituted a committee called Cow Committee, which had a couple of professors from IITs and University Vice Chancellor, and this report contained roadmap for the technical education for the future of the country, and using various facets of what transformation was necessary and was told, we started working on that. And by 2017, we had frozen on some of the very important initiatives for shaping the future of technical education. And this particular topic today is reshaping higher education. Technical education is one of the components of that. So both management and engineering, which are very important, predominant activities under technical education, both come under this umbrella. Of course, remaining higher education institutions include those from the universities having arts, commerce, science, medicine, law, all those institutions. And there are some common threads between technical education and the remaining part of the education, which is higher education. So if you reflect back what all we have done, and fundamental question which was being raised by the industry, by the society, by the government, all along was on employability of the graduates. India, with very low gross enrollment ratio at the time of independence, as low as 0.7%, and we had a vision of reaching 30% by 2020. We have already come to 28%, so our vision has been more or less being achieved. But all the time, emphasis was on access and equity, that any child who wants to come into the higher education should have enough opportunities. And it should be nearer home. And that is why colleges were opened in all districts of the country, in all remote regions of the country. And therefore, access and equity parameters were to a great extent achieved. But when it comes to quality, there were a lot of question marks raised by the industry, by the society, that the graduates are not good enough for being employed. And that is where Cow Committee report had given some of the leading thoughts actually, and we took it up from ourselves. One reason which universities are not doing was revision of the curriculum at regular intervals. If we are teaching 19th century or 20th century material to our children in the schools and colleges and higher education institutions in the 21st century, I think there is a big mismatch. And naturally, industry will not accept such graduates. And therefore, first and foremost principle was to make them on board with the new technologies into the curriculum. And that was the first exercise which we started off doing. Second one was having got those things into the curriculum. Our teachers who themselves graduated long back need to be trained in all these upcoming niche, new emerging areas. And that's why we had an exhaustive faculty development program launched under the banner of Atal Academies. This Atal stands for AICT's Training and Learning Academies. We started off with 4, then subsequently added 11 more. So we have about 15 Atal Academies in existence today, and all of them are giving the faculty development programs in very important areas like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, 3D printing, robotics, blockchain, cloud computing, cyber security, augmented reality, virtual reality, data analytics. So you name any upcoming area which is important for both management education as well as engineering education. In fact, gradually it is going to become important even for arts, commerce, science, medicine, all variety of education. These topics are going to become very important. So we started off with training of faculty in these niche areas through some of the best teachers available in the country from say IITs and NITs on one side and the industry people who have been working on those problems and finding solutions. They were also involved in this exercise. We had another initiative of faculty training program for making them ready for actually teaching process itself. So there is no teaching certification program that exists anywhere in the world, but we, with the committee's recommendation, started off what is known as faculty certification program consisting of 8 modules with subsequently 1 month of internship in an industry, followed by that practicing all the content that one has learnt in those 8 modules and the internship into the real classroom, and someone, senior faculty member, observing, guiding, mentoring, and then once one is successfully implementing all that what he has learnt in these 8 modules, which start from passion for teaching, passion for technology, and then most important thing, how do you design curriculum, how do you set question papers, how do you interact with students, how do you empower our students, how do you use ICT tools, how you can become innovative, how you give innovative questions and projects for students. All of this is part of this 8 modules. And I think this is first time that is being done anywhere in the world, and we started off with this exercise way back, as I said, in 2017. This is as far as faculty are concerned. But moving ahead, as far as students are concerned, when they join an institute coming from different backgrounds, we have a student induction program of 3 weeks duration, and which has a variety of content ranging from communication skills, collaboration, teamwork, knowing about the institute, and being associated with the institute fully, and therefore taking them around the institute, taking them to nearby industry, taking them to geographical and historically important places near the educational institute, and that way make them as owners of the institute. Ownership with the institute is very, very vital. And all of this is being done by faculty members through this 3 weeks induction program, and therefore faculty training in even universal human values and student induction program is also done in a big way. We have examination reforms introduced. We are aware that our question papers are all based on normally rote learning. You memorize things, and in the examination hall, whatever questions come, you have known the answer, you omit it and get excellent marks. But when you ask them, where do you apply, where do you apply, why do you apply, how is it happening, what, how, and why of that topic is hardly known to any student. There are, of course, notable exceptions. So, therefore, how we really want to take our students in terms of their learning process through what is known as involving them in the entire process of learning. We have had another area which is called student internships. And these internships are of 6 months duration in an industry, whether large scale industry or a small scale industry, medium or small scale, or it may be micro industry. It can be a startup. It can be going to a village under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and learning the challenges that exist and how do you solve those problems. I think therefore problem solving ability being obtained through variety of experiential learning is what was embedded in this internship program. So we had for students, one is when they enter the system, there is an induction program. And during the process, they have an internship, which is a strong connect with the industry and knowing the industry challenges, and they can become useful to society. With all this, we have this universal human values as a course through which we will create individuals who are going to be better citizens in the future. And that's why values, ethics, morals, integrity, honesty, how do you embed them into the students was another exercise which we started doing. And if the students are supposed to be the great learners, the outcome of the graduation should be in such a manner that the projection of whatever institute wants to achieve has to be achieved. And for that, testing is important, and that is where exam reforms are connected. That instead of only mere rote learning, how you create a question paper where you have a question which tests your understanding, application, synthesis, data analytics, and how you can be innovative. And for this examination reforms also, we have been conducting workshops for faculty members. Then comes the real innovation. And innovation is again one way linked with our question papers. And on the other side, how we give challenging problems to students and make them think out of the box and prepare solutions. And such solutions, when students attempt, some of them may succeed, some of them will fail. Failure is the first step of success. So don't insult a student if he has failed in particular problem solving, because he has in fact learned in the process of failing. And that's why failure is said to be the first step of success. We all know about Thomas Alva Edison. Hundreds and thousands times he failed before an electric bulb was successfully possible to be lit. And then we have electricity at homes where we have all type of bulbs and tube lights and variety of lighting equipment which is there today is thanks to Edison. And this is all possible provided we provide that opportunity. And AICT in the last 3 years already has under its belt 3 Smart India hackathons, problem statements from government, from the industry. We gave them as a challenge to our students and they gave solutions, ideas. We shortlisted in 48, 50 centers. They really solved those problems by remaining awake for 36 hours. And these solutions were further fine-tuned by those students as a part of the project. And then government or the industry have implemented them. And that shows the success of the students, while the industry sometimes cribs about students are not employable. The very same students, given them some guidance, some mentorship, some opportunity, they come of age and create solutions which even industry people are not imagining or not thought of. And that is the strength of our young generation. How do we empower them is the basis, and that's why whether it is innovation cells in every institution, whether it is entrepreneurship cell, whether it is creating an incubator and a startup activity in the institution, whereby we create not only employable engineers and managers, but also those who can start startups and in the process create jobs for the future generation. I think that is what we have already been doing. Now, when you talk about reshaping the higher education, what difference will it be possible? I will reflect upon one of the other activities which was mentioned while reading the biodata, that is creation of a Swayam portal, which is an indigenous MOOCs portal. MOOCs stands for Massive Online Open Courses. Swayam stands for Study Webs for Learning by Young and Aspiring Minds. And such a platform such as Swayam with 2,500 courses, with as many as 114 countries watching them, 1.2 crore students onto this platform. It's an amazing thing which has happened in the last 3 years, and Swayam 2.0 is being now prepared by IIT Madras, where it is in the form of plug and play that various other MOOCs platform creators can also come onto this platform, and we can branch out and take best possible education from the best possible faculty anytime, anywhere, by any device is all made possible. I think this is the journey. So why I am reflecting to this Swayam, UGC and AICT has allowed 20% of the credits to be earned through MOOCs platform. That means even if you do not have a faculty in a very important area where student is interested, in which student is interested, I think you need not worry. You need not appoint a teacher for just 2 or 5 students. You can ask those students to look at Swayam platform, the best possible course in the domain in which he is interested or she is interested, she can take, and then transfer these credits after graduation, during their graduation program, into the mark sheet or the transcript. I think this empowerment is already made. And then many colleges had their own learning management systems like Moodle, or they had their own some kind of a platform through which faculty sometimes were taking online classes of their own students. This COVID-19 has suddenly created a big vacuum in terms of stopping of the classes. The learning, which is supposed to be lifelong, which is supposed to be also self-learning, suddenly came to a grinding halt. And that is where this online education or YouTube-based education or MOOCs-based education has got prominence. And now we are thinking about increasing this 20% credits to be transferred through Swayam to 40% and involving other MOOCs platforms as well. So this is one side. Other side, the questions which are raised quite often are that this kind of platforms and internet, you can learn only if you have the bandwidth and internet connectivity at your homes, at your respective places. And when the lockdown happened, students had to go to their villages, towns, away from the educational institution. And although some institutions carried on lecturing and the classes through online mode, students were not in a position to attend to them, and therefore there was a lot of heartburn and sorry state of affair that was reflected in the media as well as in the emails that the students were writing. Some of the institutions who conducted online examination, students were not happy because they did not have enough bandwidth. So on one side, after the lockdown is over, one of the important responsibilities on the government, which has to provide basic facilities, is in terms of creating infrastructure, which is fiber optic connectivity to every village. Like we had every village should have a road, every village should have an electricity, every village should have internet capability. Once we have in the village, further down the line, going to every hamlet, every house, every citizen will get access to internet. And sometimes if it is not through internet, at least through the broadband on the mobile and smartphone is possible. So this is the second exercise which government has to do if we have to reshape the higher education, because some of the courses which we were not able to conduct now, we are going to conduct right now in the online mode, and this facilitation may continue and should continue and shall continue. But now what is the proportion of the education that should be online? What proportion should be in the face-to-face mode? And I call it as a blended mode in a different sense. Earlier, before COVID-19, our definition of blended learning was students are asked to watch a video of a particular YouTube or from a Swayam platform, come prepared to the class, and in the class, teacher will ask whether they have understood, will explain some of the philosophy behind that course, some of the basic knowledge about that, create knowledge about fundamentals, then ask students to solve some of the challenging problems in the teams, and a lot of interaction happens in the classroom. So while some part of the study happens at home and in the hostel rooms, remaining part of application-oriented knowledge or wisdom is created in the classroom. I think that was the philosophy which we thought of as what is known as blended learning or flipped classroom. But today I am talking about of a different blend. Like we have fruit juice where you have apple, you have orange, you have pineapple, you have banana, you have mango, and you can create a mixed fruit juice. And depending on the taste that you wish, you want more on the sweetish side or a sour side, you will add some content more than the other content. It need not be equal proportions. And exactly the same way, tomorrow's higher education, which we need to shape or reshape, has to be on the basis of which education can be more on the online mode and which requires more physical face to face mode. Maybe some of the topics like engineering, architecture, medicine will require more of the physical face to face mode of teaching learning, while management education can be more on the face to face, maybe less, and more on the online mode. I think this proportion has to be decided by individual programs depending on the nature of the program, nature of the course, nature of the place, geographical location where you are located with internet capability or less capability. I think all of these are going to be reshaping the higher education in the future. But ultimately, what is the goal of learning after all, or the education after all? To empower our citizenry, that is, every student who comes in has to go out of the education institution as a successful candidate who can face the life outside. Because our educational institution, he has cozy life. But once you go out in the competition, you have to be cutthroat into the competition, and therefore, in order to survive, you require a variety of skills, whether it is communication skills, listening skills, capability of working in teams, leadership, also hard skills and soft skills. And how do you do all of this while one is in the educational institution? This also needs to be divided. So, skill part and general education part. And this will make an individual empowered and confident. And when we talk about empowerment and confidence, please understand that every human being comes with certain important inbuilt capabilities through the DNA. Every human being is different. All five fingers are not same, they are different. All human beings are not same. Some are fair, some are black, some are brown, some have big eyes, some have small eyes, some have long nose. I think each individual carries a DNA which creates a human being, and every human being has a different learning ability. Some learn through lectures, some learn through doing practical things by hands on, some look at experiential learning capability of others and learn, some learn by PowerPoint presentation, some can learn by the internet. I think, therefore, depending on what is his nature, each one of them should be allowed to practice and also go into internship and look at the world around outside the college and become confident citizens who will not only help their families, themselves, but also the society around, the state where they live, the nation where they live, and ultimately including the nature and the environment and the entire globe. So there is a big responsibility on the education sector, and this learning has to be also lifelong. And only then we can be called as successful individuals. And therefore, many times I say that artificial distribution of the education as school education or preschool education, nursery, KG, or education at family level, high school, college, university, and all of that is segregated into components, which is also wrong. It is actually a continuum in mechanical engineering, in many courses, whether it is engineering mechanics or in fluid mechanics, and we talk about what is known as continuum. Continuum is, it is, everything is continuous. The space around us is continuous. There is everywhere oxygen, and this continuum we artificially divide and say that this is primary education, this is higher education, and so on. So I think we must understand continuity where values are created right from family till the higher education. This is one part. Secondly, all new products and processes that we see in the nature as well as in our day-to-day life, whether it is TV, whether it is refrigerator, whether it is a building, whether it is our college, our university, the industry, all of that is cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary. Nothing is a product which can be called as purely civil engineering, purely aerospace, purely electrical engineering. And therefore, there is a lot of cross disciplinary activity which is required. Therefore, our projects which we give to our students in the colleges and universities must involve students from all domains, and also the problem should be such that input from all these domains is necessary. In fact, in the industry outside, it is not only engineering and management, but also philosophy, psychology, sociology. This is also very, very important when you develop a new product, because product may be very good from technical point of view. Managers may be very good in marketing and therefore they may be marketing, but the takers will not be there because of social stigma, because of their attitude, and therefore various other aspects are also very important. Therefore, in our curricula, not only technical domain subjects, but we must have humanities and social sciences as part of the integrated curriculum for us. We should also be proud of our heritage. So, whether it is our Indian knowledge systems in terms of whether it is Ayurveda, mathematics, or science, or chemistry, or chemical engineering, which we should be proud of, which will also be part of the curriculum. We should be concerned about environment. Any development that we do must have sensitivity towards our environment, and therefore, while content is important, what is the outcome that we want to achieve is important. That's why AICTI has also made accreditation mandatory for all institutions in the next 3 years. If they don't get 50% of the programs accredited, they will have to close their college. And therefore, it's a warning signal that we must start processing ourselves towards accreditation. But we will help you. We have a scheme called Margadarshak and Margadarshan, under which experienced faculty, senior faculty from different IITs, NITs, senior professors from different institutions who are willing to help other institutions are onboarded. Some of the best institutions are also asked to help other institutions. And I think in this manner, we have been in a position to create a variety of activities, each one of them leading to improvement in the quality of technical education. And we have recently launched what is known as National Educational Alliance for Technologies, artificial intelligence, AI-based personalized learning tools, which are offered by various companies, are onboarded by due diligence. And every 4 students, when they buy that product, 1 student gets this free of cost. I think this is another area where we are trying to develop employability of our graduates, and not just employability, higher level of employability. I think this is what we have been continuously doing and which needs to be continued. And this is nothing but reshaping the higher education. And I'm sure new national education policy is also on the cards, where a lot of emphasis on vocational education, skill education, general education, research and innovation on these aspects is laid. And once the draft policy is converted into a formal policy, we will all work together, whether it is industry, whether it is educational institutions, private or government, the government itself, the regulator, the society. If we work together, any such crisis such as COVID-19, which will come anytime in the future, we will face such crisis in a much better prepared way than what we faced today. But we have faced today also, and we are very happy that it is still under control compared to some of the developing and developed nations. With these few words, I conclude. And if there are any questions from the audience, I would like to answer them.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was indeed a knowledge-filled session, and the measures you've mentioned concerning the artificial intelligence was truly vivacious. We really appreciate it. And sir, we definitely feel enlightened with the ray that you have shown to us through this guide. We do sense courage that this darkness will definitely be dispelled very soon, and we will get the spark of technical knowledge once again. Thank you so much, sir. And now, to begin with the question and answer session, I would like to inform to our audience that for this session, we had received more than 3,500 questions as submitted by different stakeholders at the time of their registration, which is definitely a very high number. And I also feel that all the attendees would like to get all their queries answered from Sir. However, due to paucity of time, we're only placing the best questions in front of Sir so as to get the maximum coverage area. So with your kind permission, Sir, shall we begin with the question and answer session?
Sure.
Much obliged, Sir. So starting with the first question, which has been put forth by Mr. Shashi Tarun, faculty at Lovely Professional University, Punjab.